Have you ever wondered how professional photographers capture perfect shots? Today, we dive deep into the heart of photography, the exposure triangle, a magical trinity of aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. These three elements work together, shaping the final image that we admire in photo galleries, magazines, and websites. First, let's understand what aperture is. Imagine the human eye. The iris of the eye expands and contracts to allow in more or less light. In photography, the aperture works in the same way. It's a hole within the lens, through which light travels into the camera body. When you adjust the aperture, you change the size of this hole. A small aperture allows less light to enter the camera, and a larger aperture allows more light. But that's not all. The aperture also affects the depth of field. A large aperture creates a shallow depth of field, blurring the background and making the subject pop. Conversely, a small aperture creates a deep depth of field, keeping both the foreground and background in focus. Next, we have shutter speed. Shutter speed determines the duration for which the camera's shutter is open. Think of it as blinking. When you blink fast, your eyes take in less light. When you blink slow, your eyes take in more light. Similarly, in photography, a fast shutter speed lets in less light and freezes the action, giving you sharp images of fast-moving subjects. A slow shutter speed, on the other hand, lets in more light and creates a motion blur effect, perfect for capturing the flow of a waterfall or the flurry of a city at night. Lastly, ISO. ISO is the sensitivity of your camera's sensor to light. A low ISO number means less sensitivity to light and finer grain, ideal for bright conditions. A high ISO number means more sensitivity and more grain, which can be helpful in darker conditions. But beware, a too high ISO can lead to noisy, grainy images. In summary, the exposure triangle is a fundamental concept in photography that combines aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Each element influences the amount of light that reaches the sensor and affects the appearance of the final image. Aperture controls the depth of field, shutter speed manages motion, and ISO adjusts light sensitivity. Mastering the exposure triangle allows photographers to manipulate these elements to create the perfect shot. Remember, it's all about balance. Too much or too little of one element can throw the whole image off. So, keep experimenting with different combinations to find the perfect balance for each shot. The perfect shot is not a myth, it's a result of understanding and mastering the exposure triangle. The magic happens when these three elements work in harmony, creating images that are not just visually stunning, but also tell a story, evoke emotions, and capture moments in time. So grab your camera, play with the exposure triangle, and capture the world as you see it.